My name is Sonny. I'm the CEO of ABC Florida East Coast. Welcome to episode 7 of the Obvious Podcast.
I'm Peter Daiga, President and CEO of Associated Builders and Contractors, Florida East Coast Chapter.
Just so you know, the Obvious Podcast is a production of ABC Florida East Coast. Unless otherwise stated, all content reflects the opinions of the guests and the hosts, and we're the hosts.
And if you like the Obvious Podcast, you can subscribe to it on all the major podcast platforms, such as Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, or Spotify, among others, or watch the audio-visual version on YouTube. You can also follow the Obvious Podcast on Instagram and Twitter. And as always, reach out to us via email at theobvious@abceastflorida.com. So, Sonny, we have a special guest today.
Yes. Guest, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Thank you for having me here. Thank you for having me at the Obvious Podcast. My name is Alberto Altamiranda. I am the Director of Education for the ABC Institute.
Let me translate. Alberto Altamiranda.
Yes. That's great.
And can you just say it for our audience, the listening audience and the audience on YouTube? How do you usually say it?
I usually say Alberto Altamiranda.
Wow. First time I heard that, I didn't know what he said. Well, welcome, Alberto. We're very happy to have you here. Peter, I had a quick question for you.
Shoot.
Do you think ABC member companies have the workforce that they need to get their projects done on time and on budget?
Well, if we take our members at their word, and we do.
And we do.
Let me tell you, Sonny, I think the first meeting I had 25 years ago when I first came to work for ABC, was with a member who was talking about the workforce shortage. And they told me, but we're talking about it today, and I think 25 years ago when that person had started in the industry, they said they were talking about the workforce shortage. And he said, and 25 years from now, we'll be talking about the workforce shortage. So there's no doubt about it, right? We talk as an organization about the shortage, of trade professionals and management professionals in the industry, and most of our members will speak to it, of the challenges, filling the workforce. I think the number the industry uses across the country is 500,000 people, so definitely.
Is college the best way to meet that workforce demand?
So, college is one way, right? Our industry needs both management professionals and craft professionals. And, we've talked a lot, you and I and Alberto and others over the years about that's been one of the challenges, I think. It's been a learning process for me. But one of the challenges as an organization is we not only have some of the members of our industry need more people to go to, FIU or UF or whatever construction management program may exist, and ABC has a strong network of student chapters around the country that are there in part to foster that and develop it, and also expose management level people at a very young age to who ABC is and the associations are in the industry. So, but at the same time, we have this parallel problem in the industry of having to need a robust source of craft professionals, both entry level because people are retiring, but then also those obtaining advanced skills in the trades. So we have not only two parallel problems there, but then we've also, one of the challenges I think that's hindered us in the past is even within the trade side, if we just go out and say to high schools and career fairs and community partners that we work with, and we just ask for electricians or we just ask for plumbers, that further limits us. And I think one of the things we've learned in recent years is we try to cast as broad a net as possible. If you think if you want to change your life for the better and have a career and one that very few, I think, duplicate, which is from entry level, the tools on your belt, all the way to being your own entrepreneur someday. The construction industry is probably one of the few places where that's still
So then let me
possible.
ask you, what is ABC doing to help people change their lives and have a career in construction?
Sure. So, as hopefully everyone knows and appreciates, that we are driven passionately by the strategic goals, the values, and the mission given to us by our leadership, our volunteer leadership. And that blue board right behind you, Sonny, one of the values listed there is being a leader in providing education in the industry at all levels. So We are, and the reason we have our special guest here today is this chapter of ABC is the single largest provider of apprenticeship education in the state of Florida. We've been doing it since the 70s. So we not only are large, which we are, but we've been doing it for a long time and doing it successfully. And by doing it, I mean apprenticeship education, which is a form of post-secondary education, where people in the trades are getting advanced skills. So
Alberto, welcome to the show. We're happy to have you here.
Thank you.
So Peter's talking about how we're the single largest provider of apprenticeship education in the state of Florida.
Yes.
And you run the school as the director of education. I wanted to ask you, because I hear a lot of different definitions of what apprenticeship is. And I know Florida defines it legally. Right. So I was hoping you can share with us, what is apprenticeship?
What apprenticeship is an individual, like we were talking about here in the construction industry, that wants to learn a trade. So let's say an individual that wants to learn how to become an electrician. So they have to be working in the field as an electrician, entry-level electrician. So that's defined by on-the-job training. So they need to be having opportunity where they can learn on the job, and that's a minimum of 2,000 hours a year. And then here in the Institute, we provide the classroom time, where it's also a recommendation of at least a minimum of 144 hours of classroom learning.
So let me ask you this question, Alberto. If I'm 18 years old and I've just graduated high school, which I wish I was, and I call the ABC Institute Apprenticeship College, and I say, hey, I just graduated high school. I want to be an electrician. Can I become an apprentice?
You can become an apprentice, yes. Now, what we offer two options, right? Because we can't just say they're gonna become an apprentice right away, because they need to be working. They need to have a job in the field.
So how can we help with that?
We can help them by partnering with our membership that we have at ABC Members. We reach out to them, find out if they have opportunities for somebody, entry level electrician in this case, and then we will make that connection between the student seeking to be an electrician and the company seeking for a young adult that wants to be an electrician.
I think that's a very that's a great point, because I think that's a very understood. What's the word I'm looking for? I think that's an element of what ABC does that is not widely recognized or understood by a lot of people. And we want to try to convey to the industry that we, for a number of years now, have had a craft trainee program. We've had a lot of different partnerships. We've gotten, in the last few years, some private grants, all of which kind of evolve around pre-apprenticeship, which is a different animal. They are not apprentices, even though a lot of people that do a pre-apprenticeship call their people apprentices. To your point, if you're not working in the trade, you can't be an apprentice. But we have a lot of craft trainees and pre-apprentices that either through their own dedication and time come to school 1 or 2 nights a week. And some of them are paying out of pocket for the craft for that related technical instruction that we provide. They've shown dedication over years. They've gotten their OSHA 10 card. There's a lot of amazing things that make them very attractive entry-level craft professionals. And I don't think the industry and our membership knows that quite as well.
Can you just tell our audience what an OSHA 10 card is?
So, sure. An OSHA 10 card is kind of like the basic cost of entry, right? I think for a person who's going to be on a construction site, a very bare minimum.
So if you have an OSHA 10 card, what does that tell the potential employer, that the employee has already done?
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah.
It's basic safety. So I think the employer, when they see one of our students that are coming to school here, right, back to the electrician example, and I go to that member and ask, tell them about this student that's investing in their education. Now, if they know that they have their OSHA 10, they're gonna feel safer having that employee on the job site, because they will have some basic knowledge on safety, how to climb a ladder safety, what are some of the things that they have to do, minimize tripping hazards when they're on the job, so there's less liability for the company that they're working for.
So a member doesn't have to worry about a new employee coming in and being a safety hazard or safety risk because there's already that OSHA 10 understanding
Correct.
that ABC Institute has already taught that student.
Yes.
That's
Alberto, about how many craft trainees does the Institute and ABC currently have? So these are people that are either 1, 2, or I think we may even have some 3-year craft
Yes.
trainees.
Yes.
So
It's over 100. We have over 100 craft trainees
all looking for a job.
looking for a job, and these are, different fields: electrical, plumbers, HVAC.
Oh, can you tell me how many fields that the ABC Institute Apprenticeship College teaches?
We have 7 trades. We have plumbing, HVAC, pipe fitter, fire sprinkler, roofing, and
Lineman? Did you
lineman.
catch
Yes,
lineman?
correct. There is lineman as well too. Thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome.
And there's an 8th trade for our audience to go to Apple or Spotify and to subscribe to the Obvious Podcast.
That's right.
Wherever
we'll give
they
you
get
a
their podcast.
certification overnight.
Absolutely.
Just go there and subscribe. So we even have a dedicated person, don't we, whose job is to try to, so if you were to call today, and by the way, we have a catchy number for the Institute. I think it's a 305 number, We Train. All right, so
Yes.
if you dial 305, We Train.
Or Wet Rain, either one.
Yeah, over the years.
the same thing.
So, but you'll ring downstairs, and we have a dedicated person whose job is to, if you're interested, and you need you have a need for some, and we know everybody does because that's what they've been telling us for 25 years and 25 years before that, and call us up at 305 We Train, and who's the person downstairs that can help them, and how can they help them?
Well, when you call 305 We Train, we're going to speak to Gina, and Gina will most likely transfer the call to Cheryl or Daniel Sarria, who will be in charge of helping them.
And they can
obtain
give
the
them more
position.
information about the students, what year they are. One of the things we track is, where they live and their age. So if that's interesting, if that's of interest to any of our members or participating employers. So that's a lot of the work we've been doing in terms of pre-apprenticeship. How many apprentices do we have enrolled this year?
We have over 700 apprentices enrolled this year.
So, all right. And in those 7 trades, and how many different locations does our chapter?
We have 10 different locations. We have locations from Miami all the way to the Space Coast.
It's awesome.
That's great. So, as the largest provider of apprenticeship education in Florida, how did that happen? Like, what's the history? How did we grow to be as large of a provider as we are?
Very good question. I believe what we do in our apprenticeship program, we do something, we go beyond what is minimally required for us. And I think the attraction of it is that what we provide to our students, it's, again, going beyond that. And what we're doing is we're providing more hands-on learning in our classroom training. So it's not just classroom training, learning from a book or just an instructor speaking to the class, lecturing to the class, but there's also a lot of time that we dedicate to having them perform labs, hands-on labs, a lot of hands-on experience that they're going to get, because I believe the best way of learning is by hands-on, actually doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So, how are you using technology in your classrooms?
So one of the things that we implemented this year is we implemented interactive monitors. So it's kind of like a huge tablet on the wall. So the instructor has more tools disposable in their hands to provide a more effective learning experience for the students. We also are implementing our VR lenses. Mm-hmm. So the student can also do like a pre-lab, right? They can have a pre-lab experience before they actually go to the hands-on part. And we're also using augmented reality, which also, because, putting those goggles on, some people get dizziness. So if it's not a good fit, then we go into what we call augmented reality, which they can use a tablet and have a similar experience using the tablet.
Wow. So really cutting edge stuff.
Definitely.
That's excellent.
Definitely.
Now, how many instructors do you have teaching these 800 students, 700 students?
We have over 50 instructors teaching the students.
Okay.
And the best thing I like about these instructors is that they're doing it not so much for monetary reasons, but they want to give back. They want to see that the future skilled tradesman is going to be highly skilled, and that they're going to provide more than what's in the book and the curriculum. They're going to provide for them also experiences, life experiences that they have. What do they need to know working in a job in the state of Florida?
That's great, and we're always looking for more. So we want to put a little call out there if anybody you know or anybody in your company might be interested. We know, the primary motivator for a lot of our instructors is, like you said, giving back,
Yes.
knowing that they're going to help educate the future workforce and craft professionals in the industry, but they're going to make some decent money at the same time.
Sure.
In terms of, maybe they're semi-retired or not, or they want to make some extra pocket cash. So think about us. We're always looking for new instructors.
Yes.
Sonny, over the years, I've kind of likened apprenticeship education to, first off, we want to change the conversation and the language. And I think we've been, as a leader in the state of Florida, had some real success in that. We believe apprenticeship education is an equally good first choice for post-secondary education. Now, you can make a very good living in construction without going through apprenticeship, but we think apprenticeship gives you makes you kind of at the top of your game. That will make
How much does this education cost a student?
So that's a great point. Earlier, when Sonny asked you to define apprenticeship, you hit on the two, I think, most important things, which is you're someone who's working in the trade, and then you're receiving a certain number of hours per year of related technical instruction or classroom instruction. But two other elements that are very unique to apprenticeship education is the cost is zero to the students by law.
Wow.
So in a time and age when culturally we're spending a lot of oxygen in the room is being consumed talking about the debt that students graduate with, and you got some politicians that want to buy some votes and do away with that. It's a little insulting, right, to our apprentices who have actually picked a route in life, a post-secondary education route where they didn't have to incur any debt, and yet we're going to ask them to pay through their taxes, for somebody who made different choices. Anyway, that aside, right, for another podcast when we talk more about politics, but you can't get away from it regardless of what it is, right?
Yes.
Apprenticeship has its share of it. So yes, it's tuition free by law in the state of Florida. Now, it is a public-private partnership for the Institute because we not only draw down some of the state dollars, which is true for other post-secondary education models. If you're a student at the University of Florida or UM or FSU, you're only paying about 25% of the cost of your education through tuition. The other 75% is paid through the government. So they partner with our industry as well to pay for the cost of apprenticeship education, realizing when you graduate, what we call a journey person, which is kind of the equivalent of someone with a bachelor's degree, according to the U.S. Department of Labor, they make more on average than someone with a bachelor's degree.
That's correct.
Which is phenomenal. And they're going to graduate with no debt. And we've already talked about how they're employed, so we have no concerns about being unemployed for 6 months or 2 years, after you graduate, trying to find a job with that degree that, is quasi useless, potentially. So anyway, third element of it really makes apprenticeship unique, right?
Definitely.
So, and for us, it's not required, but we do ask contractors to pay a small fee, a contractor's fee, to support their students. We think a vested employer, is more valuable than one that's not vested. So, they're paying that small fee, helps, I think, us in those reporting requirements and other things. Sure. When somebody's absent and we're texting the student, we're calling the employer, where were they? If they didn't have any money on the line, they might not be as engaged partners. So, and then there's a fourth element in apprenticeship we talk a lot about. There's mandatory wage increases as you go through your education. Now, as it turns out, I think most people in this market are already above, where those mandatory minimums are at. But still, it's a part of the model that's required, that if you weren't making that, you would be required to get those pay increases. I mean, what a great post-secondary education model.
So how many years does it take to become a journeyman?
Well, we have different trades, so the majority of them is 4 years.
Okay.
So after 4 years of graduation, you have some programs that are 3, some that are 2.
So for 4 years, you're working and you're going to school. I'm assuming school's in the evening because you're working during the day.
Correct.
Right?
Maximum 2 days out of the week from like 6 to 9.
Okay. Oh, wow. 6 to 9. Okay. So you're looking at a 4-year program. And this is why I think, Peter, you say this is not an alternative to a bachelor's degree. This is a bachelor's degree. Yeah. Right? Because the commitment is very, very similar. But then over those 4 years, in year 2 and year 3 and year 4, their wages go up because it is required by Florida law. Wow. So you can get to graduate, you make money, you graduate, you get a skill, you get better at a skill.
Think about it too, Sonny, from a
And no debt.
from a government perspective, what their return on their investment.
Yeah.
I mean, they're already from day one getting tax dollars, from those, whereas you're not necessarily a student in the traditional, post-secondary education model. So
Alberto, last question for you. What do you think is the biggest challenge for apprenticeship education?
The biggest challenge, I would say the biggest challenge lies in the student. And that challenge is, of course, there has to be hard work. There's sacrifice. You're working an 8 to 5 job, right? Very, very physically demanding job. And then you're coming to school at night, 6 to 9. I remember doing my master's kind of similar, right? It wasn't a physical job, but yes, I was working, providing for a family, and then having to go to school at night. So that I think poses the biggest challenge. But again, hard work pays off, sacrifice pays off, and we saw the results of that in our recent graduation in the summer in July, where we saw these individuals graduating, over 100 graduates, and 45 of those graduates had perfect attendance.
unbelievable.
Wow.
Unbelievable. So apprenticeship education isn't all the Institute does, though, right? So what are some of the other things, either now or in the future, that you see the Institute providing the industry in terms of education?
Well, some of the
needs?
things based on what we hear from our members that they would like to have is, for example, somebody who already graduates from our program, we want to continue to help develop them, create some professional development. And so we're looking at starting a superintendent program, which kind of helps them kind of move up in their career.
Yeah.
And then from there, hopefully go towards a project management program as well, too. So that's kind of something that we are envisioning for the future of our institute.
We also kind of envision doing some task training, so we're kind of in the initial stages at the direction
Yes.
of our board at the Institute to try to come up with some, shorter term task training elements that different trades can use. So look for that in the future.
Definitely.
Obviously, safety from soup to nuts. We do either through the Institute or the chapter from OSHA 10, 30, and all the other different types of training offerings. We offer multi-languages come to you at your convenience, so think about that.
Yes.
So I feel like I'm missing something, but there's soup to nuts. So journeyman prep, some of our graduates want to get their journeyman license or their master's license. So we do prep for them as well. And so in any event, yes, we talk a lot about apprenticeship because it's
Definitely.
kind of the bread and butter, I think, of the Institute. But it's, again, true to our mission, which is to develop and improve education and training in the construction industry at all levels. And that's what you do at the Institute. So.
Well, thank you for joining us, Alberto. Thank you to all of you. We hope you have enjoyed your time and have learned more about apprenticeship and just the role that ABC Institute of Apprenticeship College plays in this very important mission.
If you want any more information, you know who to call.
305, we train.
And at the podcast, if you want to reach us, don't forget, you can always email us at theobvious@abceastflorida.com.
Thank you, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks. Ciao.